Hello, my name's Bev and I'm the author of the book Please Eat, A Mother's Struggle to Free Her Teenage Son from Anorexia, which describes our family's battle with the deadly eating disorder, anorexia nervosa, which my teenage son Ben developed back in 2009 when he was just 15 years old. The next posts from the middle of May 2011 look at the contract and Ben's recovery and demonstrate really why sometimes it was definitely a case of one step forward, two steps back. But no one ever said it was going to be a straight line. There was always going to be a blip or blips. It would be impossible for it to be perfect. It would be unrealistic. So there was kind of a good news followed by the bad news here, and the first post is from the 15th of May, and it's called Up Nearly 2 Kilo on Friday. Funny how for me it was a cause of celebration, whereas for him it was a cause of shock. Thankfully, he began to accept it as okay after a while, as I reminded him that we're looking at a gradual weight gain over the long term. When we pan out and look at the past month, the weight gain is actually very manageable. Mind you, I know it's going to be difficult if he puts on a similar amount next time he's weighed. I don't believe he will be able to handle that at this stage, unfortunately, unless we pan out to the long term again and the rational side of his mind accepts that as being okay. As any parent of an eating disorder teenager will know, rational thinking goes totally AWOL for quite a few months as the condition gets worse. But the good news is that it gradually comes back. This is why I'm keeping a chart to show the gradual increase over the long term to avoid potential knee-jerk reactions. We're into our 9th week of the contract and it's still working. This weekend Ben had quite a lot of points to spend, having gained a load of points for Friday's weight gain. And after 8 full weeks of the contract, I'm delighted to say we haven't had to deduct any points at all for resistance or over-exercising and so on. Ben is also sleeping much better. I believe this may be due to a reduction in anxiety because all the control is set out in the contract, so he doesn't have to worry. Plus, there's a general feeling that yes, we are moving forward after our period of limbo over some of the winter months. And then the next post, there's a bit of a downer, and it's from the 19th of May 2011, and it's called, Why is the fear of weight gain still such an issue? I get so frustrated that at this advanced stage in recovery, Ben still stresses about putting on weight. Today I asked him if he could work on doing full days at school once the AS level exams are over and he starts A2 coursework towards the end of this term. Not if I find out I've put on loads of weight next Friday, he said. So I reminded him again that we have to look at weight gain over the long term to avoid knee-jerk reactions to every scales session which result in maintaining or losing weight over the long term. Next Friday, we will be 8 weeks into the contract, and I've been making notes of how much his weight has gone up and down during this time. At the moment, he's averaging below the recommended weight gain per week over 6 weeks. I pointed out to him that he'd have to increase by a massive 2 kilo on Friday for it to average out at the recommended weight gain. So in theory, that shouldn't stress him out now that he is much, much more rational in his thinking. So I guess it's a case of reinforcing this concept over the next week. And also the fact that he is not yet weight restored. But it frustrates me that he still worries that he will suddenly balloon out into some kind of blubber monster, and even at just a couple of kilo heavier he feels he wouldn't be attractive to the opposite sex. The good news is that I've heard so many mums say that one of the most amazing things about full weight restoration and recovery is that gradually weight and appearance become less important, sometimes disappearing altogether. But we're not weight restored yet, and they say the last kilo are the hardest. That's the end of that post. A while ago, in the blog posts from the previous month, from April, or even before that, I talk about Cam's suggesting, or rather I suggested and Cam's agreed, that we start blind weighing, which is where the young person doesn't actually get to see whether they've lost or gained weight, and it's not talked about. And when they're weighed with their back, with a back to the scale, so they can't see what the weight is. And I really feel that could have helped at this stage, because it was never actually rolled out. The plan to weigh less often, fortnightly rather than weekly, was rolled out, but the blind weighing never was. Interestingly, today I've actually just Googled blind weighing for eating disorder patients to see what the research and scientific evidence is for and against it. And I found this interesting article from the Journal of Eating Disorders, which was published on the 17th of August 2020, and it's called Blind versus Open Weighing from an Eating Disorder Patient Perspective. And there's a very interesting section in it which I shall read to you now. This is from the PDF of the article. Weighing experience. Participants' experience of being weighed differed depending on whether they saw or did not see their weight when stepping on the scale. When open weighed, participants described weighing days as anxiety, fear and stress-ridden. Negative emotions and thoughts about being weighed often started the day prior to being weighed, impacting participants' sleep and triggering urges to engage in compensatory and self-harm behaviours. Similarly, following open weighing, participants reported experiencing distress, low mood, rumination and worry, which did not improve until the end of the day. In contrast, blind weighing was described as quick and routine-like. Leading up to weighing, participants expressed little to no negative thoughts about their weight. Although anxiety was experienced by many immediately before stepping on the scale, participants appeared to be able to recover quickly and refocus on their treatment. Participants noticed that weighing practices influenced their motivation, meal plan compliance, compensatory behaviour engagement, rumination and therapy engagement, especially on weighing days. Open weighing was said to decrease motivation and increase resistance to meal plan compliance and increase engagement in compensatory behaviours. Open weighing was further thought to trigger increased rumination and preoccupation with weight, which was reported to negatively impact on therapy engagement immediately following weighing. In contrast, blind weighing was reported to maintain motivation towards recovery and treatment, improve meal plan compliance, and reduce urges to engage in compensatory behaviours. However, not knowing one's exact weight in blind weighing was noted to lead to catastrophic cognitions about possible weight gain because of the lack of evidence to disconfirm one's distorted beliefs. So it then goes on to say, the majority of participants identified open weighing as a hindrance to recovery. Being exposed to one's weight was said to increase anxiety, trigger eating disorder behaviours in an attempt to control one's weight and maintain both the patient's and treatment team's focus on weight. Further, participants found that exposure to their weight fueled their ambivalence towards recovery and increased resistance towards treatment. I won't read any more because it does go on for quite a bit, but what I will do is I'll put a link to this paper, this article, in the description below so you can look at it yourself. But what it is saying is what I was saying all the time and what I was thinking all the time. I mean, what we were experiencing was 9 years before this article was published, before this this research was done, and it just mirrors our experience absolutely. And I'm quite gobsmacked, actually. I really am. And that also goes for what I said in other posts about the low pulse rate, as more and more people are coming to realise that bradycardia, which is a low pulse rate, is part and parcel of the damage that anorexia can do on the body. So anyway, thank you for listening. You'll find a link below to my blog, and you'll also find a link to my website where you can download free PDFs of my blog, and also a link to Amazon where you can buy a copy of my book.